Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head back to Scotland, and I'm quite lucky because my parents brought over some of the Brewdog beers that I've missed while I've been here in Sweden. So for this one we're going back to November 2015 and we're going to have a taste of the No Label, which is a 4.6% Kölsch beer, and this one was brewed to kind of celebrate the opening of their Soho bar in London. It's a Kölsch beer and it comes in at 4.6%. It was rated at 80 on Rate Beer and 99 actually within the Kölsch style, and actually one of the top 50 Kölsches rated on the site too, so it should be a really quite interesting one. And if I remember correctly, this is the first Kölsch style beer that I've had from Brewdog. Kölsch, of course, is a style that originates from Cologne in Germany. Usually it's got a nice wheaty malt base, but quite a little bit of a kind of moderate hop profile as well. It's an interesting beer style, but not one you come across all that often if you're not in Germany. So yeah, but anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about Brewdog. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the Brewdog website, the link to my other reviews from Brewdog. There's about 90 or so of them now, so make sure you check them out. All the usual social media is there, and if you do want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. So anyway, a very quick summary of Brewdog. So these guys are a Scottish brewery. They're from where I used to study back at home in Aberdeen in Scotland. The love child of two guys, James Watt and Martin Dickey, and their first brewery opened in 2007 in Fraserburgh in the very northeast corner of Scotland. But more recently, they've relocated to their new brewery in Ellon in Aberdeenshire. That's a little bit closer to the city of Aberdeen. These guys are known as being a very experimental brewery, and particularly as well for their strong beers too that you may have heard of: Tactical Nuclear Penguin, Sink the Bismarck, The End of History. But these guys are largely inspired by the American craft brewing renaissance. They often cite Stone Brewing Company from California as one of their main influences. These days they've got several brew pubs throughout the UK. This started with their home bar in Aberdeen back in 2010. I was there on the opening night, but since then they've spread all throughout the UK and they've got several international sites these days too. And they're also looking these days to open up a second brewery in Columbus, Ohio. They're actually working on that now, and the guy who's been hired to run this project used to work for Dogfish Head as well, so some very exciting times ahead for Brewdog, of course. But these guys are the largest independently owned Scottish brewery, and they're still expanding, mainly due to their Equity for Punk scheme. And this is where fans of the brewery, such as you and I, can actually buy shares, and they use this money that they raise to buy like new tanks and build new buildings and invest in their bars and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting business model, and one of the owners actually released a book about how they do that. And one of the more cool developments that they've done recently is that they've released a book called DIY Dog, so you can actually access every Brewdog recipe and try and clone it for yourself with your home brewing. So pretty cool actually, and it's a really, these guys have a very interesting business model. So for those of you actually studying business at university, you know, probably something that you could write a very interesting dissertation on. But yeah, very good brewery. They produce some pretty damn awesome beer, and they're very experimental too. So do go and have a further read about these guys if you are interested, and make sure you try their beers. But anyway, let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So as I said, this guy is a 4.6% Kölsch beer. It was launched in November 2015 for the launch of Brewdog's Soho bar in London, and the beer is brewed to support the LGBT community, and all profits are actually donated to charities that support the LGBTQI+ communities. And I'm not sure exactly what the I stands for, but it's lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, queer, and as I say, I don't know what the I stands for exactly. But the little blurb on the side here says, "This is a beer for post-nuclear age, a post-hopped, post-translational, post-revolutionary, post-psychoanalytical, post-recession, post-embryonic, post-presidential, post-experimental, post-modern, non-binary, post-gender beer. Just like humans, we believe a beer can be whatever the hell it wants to be, and proud of it. At Brewdog, we believe in equality, particularly when it comes to beer. So whatever your persuasion, gender, creed, or background, we embrace you. In fact, the only thing we ever dream of putting a label on is our beer. This beer has been brewed with gender non-conforming hops as a Kölsch. No Label is neither an ale nor a lager, while simultaneously being both. Beer and people aren't all that different. Enjoy this throttle hoppy hybrid and bask in its kaleidoscopic rainbow of citrus notes, giving away to an all-out red fruit bombardment, delivering a long, lingering, juicy finish, to be enjoyed responsibly by all free-thinking post-millennials." So yeah, it should be quite cool. Best before the 9th of October 2016, and you can see there is the usual artwork on this one. Apparently the hops used in this one are Jester, which have been sourced from Charles Ferram, who is quite a well-known hop dealer apparently. But you can see the standard kind of Brewdog artwork on this one. It's really nicely done actually. You can see this is the charity I think they've supported, the Queerest of the Queer it's called, so quite cool to see their thing on it as well. And of course that's something that I support quite strongly as well, is inclusiveness and basically supporting gay rights and things like that. So very cool to see that Brewdog are continuing that. Of course the beer that they did, the Hello My Name is Vladimir, was brewed to do that as well. They've had quite a few beers that they've brewed that have been to support the LGBT community, so it's really cool to see Brewdog, especially when they're one of my local breweries from back home, doing that. So keep it up, Brewdog, your efforts are much appreciated. But yeah, should be quite interesting. And one thing you can really smell in this beer is that red fruit character they're talking about. I heard this as a it says on Rate Beer that it's a Kölsch, but I have seen people describe it, and Brewdog described it as well, as somewhere between a Kölsch and an alt beer. An alt beer, from what I remember, is usually a good bit darker than this. This really does look like a Kölsch. So as you can see, it's a nice hazy pale golden straw colour. A lot of nice carbonation just floating around in it there. Some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. No visible sediment there, and there was about a half finger of a kind of quite bumpy white head on this one. That one's just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer, and you can see that there is a degree of transparency to this one, but it is quite opaque at the same time. So let's have a little look at the aroma and see how we get on. But yeah, it does actually smell quite like there's some kind of peachy character coming out of this one, to be honest. There's a kind of juicy tropical fruit, but you can really smell the citrus notes coming off this one. And there is a little bit of a reddy fruit character as well. You can smell some of these red fruity esters coming off this beer. You're never going to smell a Kölsch beer like this one. Tell you that straight up. You can smell, when you sugar it up a little bit more, you can get the kind of wheaty and doughy bread notes that you would normally expect from the Kölsch style. The alt beer, from what I remember, is quite bready and has a lot of caramel in it, and usually a good bit of red fruity ester. I'm not so much getting the caramel out of this that you would normally expect from the alt beer, but there's a nice big kind of bready, doughy character, like I'm saying. Maybe a little bit of biscuit and some grainy character, but not the kind of slightly toasted caramel that you expect from the alt beer. But the hoppy character is quite prominent. There's a little bit of floral aromaticity, some grassiness in there too, and you can smell the slightly sharper lemons in there. But there's a nice, almost citra hop character to this one. It really does. These Jester hops, I guess, do smell a little bit like citra hops in a way. They've got that quite juicy tropical fruit note. It almost smells a little bit peachy, but it does have some of these kind of red fruity esters coming out of it. It's a little bit of a kind of figgy, sort of plummy raisin character you're getting from this, but at the same time it's kind of peachy. So it's really interesting. I think this is the first beer that I've had Jester in, of course. And these ones are quite interesting because apparently it's the male stalks flower on this, because normally it's only female hops that actually produce full flowers. The male ones don't. So it's quite an interesting one. Let's just take a little bit of time with this beer because obviously it is quite unique, but enjoy the aroma before you try it. It is really quite interesting. Like I say, big bready doughy character, a little bit of grainy biscuit, but it's mainly the hop character for me that is quite interesting on this one, and that's exactly what you would expect from Brewdog. But without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. So this is the No Label, released in November 2015 from Brewdog, one of my local breweries from back home in Aberdeen, Scotland. Skål. That's quite interesting. It's very light actually. That's the first thing you'll notice about this beer. So as I always say, just sugar it around your palate a little bit and let your whole mouth adjust to this one. The thing I noticed as well actually, at 4.6%, it does kind of keep in line with what you would expect from a German beer. The German beers tend to be between 4 and 5% normally, and they can go up to usually about 7% for Doppelbock and stuff like that. But yeah, this is an interesting beer, this one. Very, very light. The middle of your palate is kind of blanketed with this smooth, bready character. It does taste a little bit wheaty, which is what you expect from the Kölsch style, so just pay attention. It's kind of a pale malt character that goes right across the middle of your tongue. There's a little bit of bready, doughy character in there as well, and you can get the smoother aspects of the wheat. But yeah, this is a really, really interesting beer actually, because the hoppy character is quite unusual. It's quite subtle actually for Brewdog. This one, for me, is quite a little bit less hop forward than some of the Brewdog ones I've come across before, but it's maybe just the feel of the hops, so they come across as a little bit more juicy than having such a kind of dry, bitter character. But that said, as you move into the aftertaste, that dryness just builds there, and it's a kind of slightly floral, aromatic one, but there's that nice kind of citrusy character in there as well. Yeah, it's interesting. It takes the palate just a little bit of time to actually adjust to the flavour that's going on in this one. So around the sides of your palate, you're getting that typical kind of, it's almost a little bit like a noble hop character actually. There is a good kind of good floral aromaticity to it. You can detect that slightly German noble character in there. So you've got some floral aromaticity. There's a slight resinous character at the front corners of the palate, but as you go round the very front curve there, it's smoother and just that little bit more grassy. There's some sharp kind of lemony flavours in there, and just behind the front curve of the tongue there actually you can pick up that little oily bubble, and there is a little bit of a kind of candied red fruit ester in there. I'm not really getting the kind of tropical flavours that I was picking up in the aroma, but you can get just a little bit of that red fruit character, but for me that's quite subtle. This one leans more, the hoppy side of the beer leans more towards the floral, aromatic and very slightly resinous character with some of that lemony citrus. Yeah, definitely stick with that. Those red fruity characters, very, very subtle. There's just a teeny tiny little bit of it behind the front curve of the tongue there. It's a kind of slight red candied fruit ester. As I always say, it's a little bit like these kind of heart sweets that you get in Haribo Star Mix. It's just that little kind of slightly strawberryish candied fruit ester in there. But as I say, for me, the fruity side of the beer is sharper and slightly lemony citrus. It's not quite the same tartness though as a sour beer. It's just that kind of smooth thing that goes with the grassy hops. But overall, it's quite interesting. I can see what Brewdog are saying with this, that it doesn't really fit into any particular style category. But it does, the cool style for me, it kind of does fit that a little bit, I would say. But it doesn't quite have some of the wheaty smoothness that you normally expect from a Kölsch beer. Is very, very subtle in this one, so it's quite interesting. This one is a good session beer actually. You know, if Brewdog wanted to have a summer session beer, this one would actually suit it really quite well. But that said, I have to admit I do quite like the This Is Lager beer. That's a really interesting one for me. But yeah, this beer, try it for yourself and see what you think. I can see why it's rated highly within the Kölsch style. I've got a good bit of experience with the Kölsch style from Cologne when I actually lived in Germany. And for me, this one fits it quite well. It's a little bit more hoppy and the hop character is a little bit different. But yeah, it's pretty cool actually. And as I say, the point of this beer was that they donated a lot of money to the LGBTQI plus charities, the queerest of the queer. And yeah, so a pretty cool beer for a pretty cool cause, I have to admit. So in terms of the mouthfeel, this one, I would say this one's quite light-bodied actually. It's a very easy kind of session beer. It's quite crisp. The carbonation does have a little bit of a prickle to it. The malt base is quite minimal. It's quite smooth actually, I would say. There's not really any dryness to the malt base at all, but there's a good bit of hoppy, bitter character in there. Some sharper lemons and just a little tiny bit of a red fruity ester there, kind of a candied fruit ester. But overall, another really quite solid beer from Brewdog. In terms of being one of their better beers, maybe quite not one of the better ones that I've come across from Brewdog, but it's always cool to try new beers from these guys. It is very well done. and it's a nice kind of session beer. So if you enjoy your lagers, your kind of hoppy lagers and things, then this is one you are going to enjoy. If you like This Is Lager, 77 Lager and things like that Brewdog have done before, this is one that you are actually going to enjoy. But if you want something that's really kind of full of flavour, then obviously stick to something like Dogma or the double IPAs, the hardcore IPA, something like that. This one is a nice light session beer, but it is very good within that category. So yeah, this one has been the No Label from Brewdog. I hope you guys have enjoyed the review. As always, if you have tried this beer for yourself, let me know in the comments section below. Once again, I thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your favourite beers from Brewdog, of course, and do suggest ones to review, but go and check out all the ones that I've done before. There's 90 or so of them there, so have a look at those, and your support, as always, is much appreciated. I do have some more Brewdog beers to review for you, so you can look forward to those over the next little while. But until the next time, slange you just now, and go and check out some of the Brewdog beers if you haven't already. Always cool to return to these guys and review more beers for you. Slange you just now, and I will catch you soon. Cheers.